dear viewers of the podcast Caught in the Motion. With me, the main host, Yavor Ivanov, and with my favorite co-host, Kubrat Ivanov, more known as Kubi.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode, where the topic is homelessness. As for the people that don't know, the main host here is currently becoming an expert as he's finishing off his final year of his PhD studying social activities, with his dissertation and the main theme and topic of it being focused on social work with homeless people in Bulgaria and Ireland and the moral parallels associated with it, the moral perspectives more so associated with it. So the first question to open up the podcast is, why did you choose this topic for your PhD? As obviously your bachelorate is in history, your master's is in classics, you have a master's in education, and now all of a sudden you've made the leap towards a more, I don't know if it's correct to say, humanistic sort of topic, something that's different from history, something that's going on currently. Why was there that change for your PhD?
Great question, I have to say. The main reason I studied that because since a long time I'm very sensitive when it comes to social justice. And I don't think it would be wrong to say that the homelessness is a measure of our failure as individuals, as society. And it's important how the society and individuals deal with this problem, how they approach this problem, how they think of this problem, and what they do or don't to solve it. So the main core reason will be that I'm very sensitive when it comes to social justice, and unfortunately the homelessness is a big problem, and it's a big failure. And I think as a human being and a member of the society, I feel slightly guilty as well, and I decide to do something about it instead of talking only at home about it. Write articles, study about the problem, see the problems and so on, which we're going to discuss. So that's the main reason. My feeling towards, and I like to be involved with this problem and helping to solve it, at least if possible, a little bit to contribute to solve this problem of this huge social injustice.
I mean, yeah, you have the parallel between countries, between the two countries, Ireland and Bulgaria, which you're focusing on in your doctorate. So we'll discuss that later on. But to define homelessness, what exactly is this? Is it characterized by one universal definition? Is it branched off to different types? What exactly is?
Yeah, again, great questions. Question. A lot of people don't know that actually homelessness has different types of homelessness. Even some colleagues in the Sofia University did not heard of one of these types of homelessness, which is called hidden homelessness. There is homelessness among women, children. There is homeless that roof sleepers, which is one of the worst forms of homelessness. So there are different types, but none of them is pleasant, of course. And it's a terrible experience for people who experience homelessness. And they are, and I'm very surprised we talk about Bulgaria and Ireland, making parallels, what is done and how it's looked the problem. For example, this particular type of homelessness, which is hidden homelessness, when people sleeping in somebody else's house, friend or relatives, this is a homelessness as well. But in Bulgaria, they did not make any. They didn't know that even consider such a homelessness exists. So there are many homelessness, women homelessness. Many times the reasons for women homelessness is the abuse at home.
Yeah.
The violence, the husband or the partner is very violent to the women, and there can be many reasons, but that's one of the reasons is that the father or the partner and the husband are very violent towards women, and unfortunately they have to stand. They have two choices. Both are terrible: to stay to be abused terribly in the daily hourly basis and or leave and face homelessness, but at least the abuser it's not there. But again, becoming homeless, you're facing another problem. So it's awful. It's an awful existence, and if you don't even try to understand it, and we will be failure as a human being. It's until you experience homelessness, you cannot not even hard to imagine how hard is this existence, if you can call it even existence.
Yeah. And that sort of leads us on to my next question. It's how big is the issue with homelessness, and what are the main reasons or causes of it? Now, you branched off onto women, saying that for some women, the reason why they have that hidden homelessness, or they're given the choice between obviously two not very pleasant decisions of staying home and being classified as such, or leaving and becoming an official one, I suppose the most well-regarded one, well, not regarded but known, as you see on the street. But what are other contributing reasons towards
the main reason is poverty. Unfortunately, the homelessness is a huge problem rising in the world. I like to use some statistics so the viewers and the listeners can have some clue, the ones who never had information or didn't come across information about the homelessness. The main reason is poverty, but as well violence and so on. But let's see how big is the homelessness issue in the world. So in United States, officially 200, and in 2024, officially are close to 800,000 people are homeless, sleeping roof. But there is a very thin line between homelessness, hidden homelessness, and the other types of homelessness to become roof sleeper, how they call it, the ones who live in the street. There are 800,000 living already almost in the United States, but there is 30% of the population that use social services. 30% of the American population use social services programs, which include coupons for food. So it's mean they're really below
the average income, the minimum income required, the threshold
required as well. And these people are in great danger to become homeless people if they don't have food and they can't afford to buy food and they're on compensated. And 30% at least once they use the social services and programs that includes coupons for food. So it's really scary, frightening, and really alarming. In UK as well, the picture is very dull, very gloomy, and very dark. The very recent research of English expert of homelessness in 2025, only alone in Wales and England, there is the homelessness in the last 10 years rose to 165%. So roof sleepers, homeless people in these two countries are 350,000. So we see that it's not only United States, in Europe as well this is happening, and which is really alarming, and we have to act quickly. We will discuss what is the maybe solution, and maybe there is not universal remedy, but there is a different remedies that can be used combined
in each country,
and in each country and combined. Also in the European Union, the homelessness rose. Average homelessness in last 10 years rose to another 100%. So we see how big it is. Again, which is the reasons? Poverty, violence, and drugs and alcohol. But we have to be very careful when we talk about alcohol and drugs, because a lot of people don't realize that these people who are in the street, we have to be human when we approach this problem, because a lot of people did not become depend on drugs or alcohol until they become homeless. A lot of people think it's the other way around. They start to drink, lose their job, they don't have money, and so on. I'll take drugs, the family fell apart, or if it's teenager, it's kicked out from the home, or they couldn't bear staying at home. No, a lot of times, in a lot of cases, because when you become a homeless, you feel that you're excluded, nobody cares about you, society, family, and you get depressed, and then is the terrible moment when they reach to for alcohol and drugs. So yes, alcohol and drugs can be a reason for homelessness, but let's not forget that could be the other way around. Um, Homelessness with the refugees, we know if there is no enough houses and so on, they can be homeless as well. Massive migration. So yeah, this is maybe the main reasons for
Yeah.
homelessness. Also difficulties in the families, falling apart families with a lot of teenagers. They can't stand staying at home when the dad and mom fighting or they're divorcing has a terrible impact on them. Also for women or men who ended in terrible way the relationship or the marriage as well can be reasons for the homelessness. Um, so yeah, there could be many factors that contribute, but this is maybe one of the main ones.
Yeah, okay. And in particular, how bad has homelessness become in Ireland, Bulgaria, and the EU in general? And how can we keep track of this? Because you have some companies that are private, some that are working towards keeping track of the number of homeless people on the streets, and now obviously branching off into different types. And then you have the social services, the government ones that are also trying to do that as well. But then sometimes when you see that they compare different data, and then the numbers don't align. So how bad has it become in each country and the EU in general? And then how can we keep track of this?
Again, the best way is to have a research, data, collecting of data, and statistics. And when I say statistics, it's only just not collect the numbers. Of course, it's very important to see in which region how much it rose the homelessness or drop down. Unfortunately, in Ireland as well, it rose on average 100% last 10 years. And statistics not only about the number of homeless, but also the statistic about what is the problems of becoming, what is the reasons behind to become homeless. In what facilities is provided for these homeless people? What is the next step? Is there enough programs, how we call prevention programs for homelessness? Because to become to this number, there must be reasons to the number to rise of homeless people. So do we have enough programs, prevention programs? Are they adequate? And you know what is the ugliest part when compare Bulgaria and Ireland? Ireland, the state really spent time and money for these statistics, and a lot of non-government organizations in Ireland, like the Focus Ireland, Simon, there are many in Ireland. We talk about as well the charity there, how much the people give in Ireland and how much this is in Bulgaria. In the ugly part is that I maybe would be right to quote Stalin here, but rephrase his terrible thought and saying, he said, no man, no problem. In Bulgaria, there is no statistic, no data, no problem. In Bulgaria, there is no collection of data and statistics. The government does not spend any money and time and energy to doing that. So how can you know about the problems if you don't research and see how it is? But one organization did a great job there. There is a small no government organization in Bulgaria which do fantastic work and helping homeless, feeding them and so on, and make some statistics, but they're only local and sporadic. They're far from what it needs the homeless problems to be enlightened. But another organization which is doing fantastic work, I witnessed it, that's the Caritas Foundation in Bulgaria. They suggest that the number of homeless in Bulgaria is 500,000. And here is the ugly face of the Bulgarian state. Bulgarian state, I read an article that they stated that in Bulgaria it's only 500 homeless, but there may be less because they travel. So they count them in Varna, and then this homeless, they move to Sofia, then to Plovdiv. So the homelessness you see all over Bulgaria, they're the same faces. That's a very cynical, very ugly way to approach and even display your involvement with homelessness with such a saying and coming from officials from the Bulgarian government. 500,000 homelessness, according to Caritas Foundation. This is shocking when the country is no more than 6.5 million people. So you're good in maths. you can see how terrible number that is. And according to the, well, fair play to the Bulgarian national radio station, they said as well they noticed this problem somehow, and they said that in Bulgaria for homeless people we needed at least 85, in them report 85,000 affordable houses and homes.
Yeah.
So statistics play a major role to see what is the problem, how big is the problem, and this statistics has to be done and make wider and with different aspects every year. So to widen the problem and the approach of the problem, the look of the problem from different angles, so we will be able to see how big problem we have in front of us, and it's a giant of a problem.
Yeah, and that just shows, both countries are in the EU, both obviously one economically, well more developed than the other one, but it shows how different approaches. Obviously, Ireland's got more funding, but they decide to, have the statistics as you mentioned earlier on, invest more. Even the people criticizing it, I'm sure that there can always, you could always do more, but their approach is steady. It's financed, it's there. And the one thing that I suppose that I took out the most out of this is that they're not ignorant about it. They acknowledge the problem and they try to battle it as much as possible. While in other EU countries such as Bulgaria, you have it there where you need a private group that has decided to, whatever it's or whoever it's funded by, to go ahead and survey the people, try and find out the different types of homelessness, and then gather all of that information up in order to state roughly that it's 500,000. Now, it's different when you have a whole country working together, because obviously if something gets, something is stated from the Dublin Parliament, it's going to get implemented at Galway, it's going to get implemented at Cork, it's going to get implemented everywhere. They're going to work together. But then when you have a private institution as such in Bulgaria, where it's one group trying to cover the whole country, even then you ask yourself logically the question, we have a number that's greater than 500, as you mentioned on earlier. It's 500,000 roughly. But it can most certainly be more accurate if the government, the state, wasn't as ignorant and didn't just treat it as another burden even.
Yeah, and the aspect, for example, from this, when I said widen and deeper statistic, which in Bulgaria, it's how you said, it's totally ignored by the Bulgarian state and institutions. In Ireland, even they have statistics. Focus Ireland did fantastic statistics. Even not only do they have home, do they have a freezer to keep a healthy food?
Yeah.
Do they eat healthy? Do they socialize? And even look at these very important details of the homeless people. It is very important, extremely important. Bulgaria, first of all, the problem is ignored. Some fat, ugly, disgusting and appalling lies about the homelessness even.
Yeah.
That almost doesn't exist, and it's a bunch of people who travel around like travelers, and I don't want to insult any travelers, but I mean they depict them as tourists.
Yeah.
Not travelers, tourists. That's how they depict them. Tourists. Today are in Varna, tomorrow they decide to go to Plovdiv and have a little bit of fun in Sofia. This article actually was appalling. It's better off, even don't have any articles like this coming from the government, than talking such ignorant and offensive contents of this article.
And in general, do you think that the coverage from the media captures accurately the magnitude of the issue? And when they do, is it performed in an adequate manner? So, in a sense that you might have a news report, an article, statistic. So let's say in Ireland, obviously, when comparing both countries, there's more being offered here. Yeah. Is it done adequately? Is it easily accessible? Is this, is this information, this news coverage, does it make a change? Does it make a difference? Because when you talk about homelessness, there's a difference from just posting the statistic online, or it's somewhere in the government files where you can search upon the internet. Is this something that's being told to the people, that they're aware of it? Because it sometimes comes up on the news, but I don't think that people know the extent and how much it is, because even now, because we live in Ireland, you walk the streets of Dublin and you see around the canal, there's people in tents. And I feel like, unfortunately, that has become just another thing that you see on a daily basis, and you notice it, but you just keep walking past it, and it's just...
Yeah, very good question. Media is very important when it comes to inform people about such a huge problems like homelessness. And it's important how frequent they do it and how they present or show the homelessness and the problems of homelessness. Because we have in Eastern Europe, unfortunately, I came in my research about the media in Slovenia, and they always depict in a negative light the homeless people. They call them kushari, which is like a rubbish man.
Yeah.
You know, it's really degrading way to call somebody who is homeless. And I don't excuse them at all, but I can understand it a little bit where this comes from, because in communism in the East Europe we did not have homelessness.
Yeah.
And always homeless person will be somebody who is lazy, who is not social person, is antisocial element, if you like. Of course, that doesn't not give rights to anybody, especially media, who has such influence over the people to call them like that. So we see that the media sometimes, especially in Eastern Europe, depict homeless people in very negative light.
Yeah.
In this case, it's Slovenia, but I'm sure it happens in the other countries. In the West, I don't think it's enough. When I said West, in West Europe, and we'll talk about United States a bit as well. I don't think it is enough cover in the media about this problem and how terrible it is to be homeless. That any of us can become a homeless one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but it is possible. And I just want to say in this podcast to every who watch this video and listen it, that don't forget you can become tomorrow homeless. Nobody is insured that you're not going to become homeless. The things in life can go wrong in couple of in a terrible pattern, and it to happen unthinkable.
Yeah.
Even the ones who thought, me homeless, no, could happen unthinkable. You can get divorced, you can get depressed, you can lose your job, you can stop paying your mortgage because you can't, and you can become homeless. Any of us can become homeless. And when talking about media coverage as well, is very important, not only how it covers, but also it's very important that the society put pressure on the government and the media to cover this problem more often, more frequently, and show it the real problems of homelessness and how terrible that is, and maybe even give suggestions how this problem can be solved, to get together with the experts and so on. But the pressure on the government is very important to put in the media, in this case, in this question you asked me, to cover more this. I think it's needed to be covered more, this problem, because it's rising, as you saw. We're talking about the statistic, how terrible it is to be homeless, and this experience for more people becoming dreadful. So definitely we need more media coverage, and with an appropriate way.
And talking about homelessness and how it's being caused by different factors, obviously just I'd call them more internal, private factors. If it's divorce, marriage, personal things, it's it's in the private economy, as you'd label it. It's something personal, but then you obviously have it on a larger scale. We know that wars obviously exacerbate homelessness, but how do wars exactly exacerbate it, indirectly or directly?
It does. The geographical place of Europe, it's not favorable in that way, because it's not the best place if you look at it from that angle. Because United States, for example, of course, everybody has rights to move and live where it's better life. Nobody leave homes because it's a fantastic home.
Yeah.
Everybody won't emigrate because it's
better
war or better
safer
safety, better life, and so on, lifestyle and so on. United States, for example, they have facing only on the Mexican border huge flux of immigrants. Of course, these people left because the life in Mexico is obviously not great for most of them. But this problem, America have it only in the south. The north, Canada is very well developed country, and they have the sea, the both oceans in both sides. So if they want to shut down, they can shut down easily.
Yeah.
But Europe facing a tremendous problem. Everybody from the Middle East, we saw that it's a very unstable Middle East. Unfortunately, now it's Palestine, Syria, it's unsettled. In Iraq, it's a kind of ongoing civil war. And this all immigrants and the wars affect badly Europe and all these refugees coming from this region. But there is not end of the fears for Europe and the terrible consequences they Europe face of these wars. North Africa, Libya, it's unstable. Most of the countries are poor, and we see constant refugees, thousands of them coming to Europe. Another war in the east, in Europe, Ukraine. We're not going to discuss who is guilty, who is not, but Europe paying the price of this war, and that's why that's becoming very unstable politically in Europe, and it's a very divides the population now.
Yeah.
Because of this war, and for example, when we saw the statistic of huge increase of homelessness. Europe accommodate 4.80 million 280,000 Ukrainian, and European Union give to these people homes, jobs, and that's worsened the situation for the citizens of Europe.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for the European citizens, but that's the reality and that's the truth. And sometimes you have to go with the real names, the situations, because really almost 4.5 million people, it's a lot, especially when you have rising of the homelessness. Ireland is very hospitable. She's the first country per capita to have Ukrainians. The statistics 112,000 Ukrainians in Ireland. They're the first per capita, and
and the thing is, it's not about taking the refugees, the asylum seekers, and obviously the documentation sort of thing. The people that are undocumented, that's a totally separate thing. That's possibly another. That's an issue in itself. That's a totally separate thing. But we're talking about the ones that are legislatively okay. They have the documentation, but it's the capacity. Even if you want to take in everyone, even if they have a background check, even if they're willing to work, you have to look at each and every individual country's interests. You can only take in so much, and obviously the best case scenario is everybody can take in everybody until the situation betters. Not even just in the war in Europe right now, but in general. You help a certain country out, especially if they're part of the EU. You're following the policy of the EU by that way, because it states in it, if somebody is seeking the refugee status, they are to be accepted, welcomed, and given the opportunity to develop themselves as a citizen. But the counter-argument towards that is, the counter-argument that I have is, how can that be done if the country can't offer it? It's more so forced. Since it's a legislation, it's been promulgated, it's now a part of the EU legislation. That is forced upon countries. Ireland has homelessness, and it's not about the amount of people coming in. Well, it is, but it's not about the people coming in as we don't want them, whatever. They'll adapt. That's the correct thing to do, as even in the last podcast, it's about being open-minded. Wherever you're welcomed, you adapt, you get used to that culture. But it's the resources. If a country doesn't have the resources, they shouldn't be forced taking in anyone. Doesn't matter if they have the passports and all the documentation. It's about taking care of your own people's priorities. It's about taking care of ensuring that they should be the priority. And it sounds, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the fact that we have to, I have to state this, that the government of its own country has to put its own people as its priority before other people that are coming into its own country.
And and the context what you're saying, it's I can give you many examples, but probably the podcast won't be long enough for it. I give you two examples. Yesterday I was watching RT, one of the most famous, and
Yeah, I was watching that as well. Yeah.
and one official from the government. What he was saying was more than ugly, more than appalling. It was spitting, if you like, in the face of the Irish citizens and the citizens of Europe. In Ireland, young people and people who reach almost 30, they're part already of thousands of them of hidden homelessness. They live with the parents.
Yeah.
They can't afford. These people work and they cannot afford to buy a house.
And they are citizens of this country.
Citizen of this country.
Irish.
And then you have towns built the whole for the refugees, and particularly we talk about, because now in Europe we have two types of refugees.
Yeah.
We'll talk later about that. He was saying, oh, but it's temporary solution to live in, put it in the garden, mobile homes. Let's fix the legislation so we can put. So for the citizen of Ireland and Europe in general. But now talking about Ireland in this context. So for the young people who work and can't afford it, living with their parents, and they're reaching over 30 years of age, they can't marry because obviously you don't have space.
Yeah.
You can't have a partner or whatever. They offer you something fantastic, fantastic. They want to give you a mobile home in the back garden.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is really, I don't know, it's really, I hardly can find in my vocabulary, Bulgarian or English, how bad this is. And really, we are in the time of brink of a change, or it really has to change. It has to change.
And
they can't continue this way.
And that's exactly what I was stating earlier on. The fact that we have to focus on the people from this country to be the priority. And then if you can, not if you want, if you can, to take in somebody else and provide them with that same opportunity. How are you going to prioritize somebody that hasn't grown up here, hasn't worked their whole life here, hasn't contributed nothing to the country? Even if they're willing to, they weren't born here. They weren't. It's crazy that I even have to explain it. And then you're giving those people coming in now that opportunity that is hindered and not given to the Irish citizen, to the Irish person, to the Irish national that's grown up here. And there, it was appalling on the TV yesterday, living in a caravan home in your parents' backyard, and then
mobile home, these ones.
They're like caravans, to be honest.
Yeah, that just don't have wheels.
And then the next thing is he suddenly shifted onto the economic policy that should be implemented, where don't touch universal social charge towards young people. Keep paying that tax, but cut the VAT for small, medium, and large enterprises. And it was great. There was, I forgot her name, but she was on last night. Yeah, an economist that stated, no, well, this isn't going to benefit the small cafes, the rural cafes, the medium-term businesses, the medium-sized businesses, the family businesses, the heritage behind it. We even have around near where we live a pub that's been here for over 120 years, has been knocked down. Now it's going to be built upon apartments. That this VAT change isn't going to cut down and help the small businesses. And there you can link it to even homelessness, because if that fails, that's maybe the only thing that family tree, or the only thing that person has wanted to work and develop themselves, but because they're not as profitable as they should be, to not make money to reach a frivolous lifestyle, just to break even. I was very happy that the economist stated, no, this isn't going to benefit those businesses that are struggling. This is going to help the multinational corporations pile up on more profits, because they're going to be using Ireland as a tax haven, and that is just going to become even better for them. So it just shows that if the change isn't occurring up the top, and if you have to have a conversation, those are colleagues, those are people that know each other with two totally distinguished opinions, where one is living, I don't know, do they definitely know what they're doing, but I don't know if they're living in that sort of a fairy tale mindset, and they don't understand or have a concept of the extent of it. And then you have a realist on somebody that is just as educated, just as experienced politically, economically, and is able to go up and, fair play, on the TV, and lobby for the point that no, this isn't going to help the common person in Ireland. This is in fact going to help the exploitation of the common person in Ireland.
Unfortunately, I think this guy from the government, he represents the government. He will defend them policies and put a rosy light that is so nice and everything is fine, it's perfect. Maybe a little bumps there, but in general, it's fantastic. It's very easy to explain that, because of course they don't want to go either against the European policies, and going against them, they don't want to lose the future seats in the European government, which is a fantastic salary. Really,
of course.
Life like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
All expenses covered, huge salary, great pension. So,
and you know what? I wouldn't mind if that was to stay the same way, but if they were good leaders, if it was a good party, the people in charge actually stood up and helped out the common person, because then you'd say, you know what, they're living way better, but it's not about the living standard, it's what they're doing when they're working. Are they making a change? You saw, for an example, for the people that don't know, Neil Martin stated that over 10,000 homes are going to be built in the last economic year, throughout the 4 quarters. He used that for advertisements to be chosen. His party, obviously, we know for the first time ever, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael being, having a coalition and so on for the first time ever. But anyways, and after he was elected in, one other politician, I forgot his name, stated, you knew these houses weren't going to be built, yet that was the cornerstone, one of the main advertising policies of your campaign. And that just shows, I don't care about how much money they make. They're obviously going to make a lot of money. It's part of the job. You have a set amount of people with a set amount of qualities that can work it. But when you do the job, do it properly. Do it properly. I don't care if they make more money. I honestly, if everybody, or you're seeing a change in 10 years' time, when I'm 20 something, 20 years' time, when there's the mitigation of homelessness. Irish people are prioritised. The housing crisis, which is inextricably linked with homelessness, that is mitigated. And even in 20 years' time, I'd hope if we start from today in the correct direction, it's fully quelled. Then I could say, you know what? I don't care about their position, how they live their life. But the fact that you're coming up on national television, and it's, once I've started watching the news the past couple of years, this has been a paradigm that's being consistently followed, and it's a business.
It's happening at 2030, and that leads to homelessness. 20-30 years ago, in Ireland, we built thousands of affordable houses constantly, so everybody could work in Ireland could afford it.
Yeah. Now
you're facing 2 choices. Maybe if the things really go bad, you become homeless roof sleeper, or the other choices are hidden homelessness, living with your parents, or emigrate.
And that's why you're seeing the exodus of nurses.
Really, honestly, it's hard to understand this approach with policy, strategy, and so on, and spending of money, billiards. And that's why this problem is one of the reasons the problem of homelessness is rising, and it's not diminishing. Poverty, I said that the poverty is one of the main reasons. Europe is cut from the affordable gas and petrol and energy sources because it's decided to have a war in the east and continue it. America, United States look after their own interest, and that will make Europe poorer and poorer. So it's mean that definitely the homelessness won't stop rising there. Unfortunately, I will rise more, and really I'm very, very concerned about the brightness of the future of Europe, EU.
But there you go, you bring one of the main pillars being poverty. Well, look, somebody could be making a salary of 2,500 a month, and then the rent is €2,000 a month. And then on paper you can see per annum how much they make. You say, well, look, these guys are making over, 24, 25, 20, 30 grand a year. They're not broke. Yes, but they can't afford to move out. So then I feel like that can be classified in poverty in itself, because that is one of the intrinsic sort of characteristics of living an independent life. It's moving out eventually, being and even though you can have that career, you can have that money at the age of 25, 26, 30, and you still can't move out. That for me is classified as to a certain extent poverty.
Yeah, it is. It is
And
indeed.
bring it back onto the exodus of Irish people, the emigration as one of the choices. You had the bring home, bring home scheme, which was published by the government 2-3 years ago, where they'd offer, I think they specifically target nurses because of the healthcare system. And it was only they had a few tax credits of, I think, €1,000, €1,200. And you just saw that it failed, because why would somebody all the way from Australia establish themselves, never know, maybe even have a family there, have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, put a mortgage down, move back just for a couple of €1,000? No, the issue between that there is, it's a topic and I'm getting sidetracked, but the issue between that there is, the same way that the Irish students study, there should be an incentive to stay. Because they study, use the Irish resources. Okay.
And anyway, a few thousands won't help you, because most of the houses, even the countryside, now there and so on. Even not in Dublin, the cheapest one are €500,000.
€500,000.
So I don't think anybody who's professional, who is not a businessman, banker, or
made it big already.
They can afford. So
And that's a certain percent of the population.
That's a small, but they can afford it.
At that age, 25 to 30, there's. Especially because loans, your mortgages is 2.5 times of your annual salary. There's no way. There's no way. Anyways, moving on, shifting back the focus onto homelessness. How can homelessness be mitigated in both Ireland and Bulgaria, since you're studying the parallel between both countries? Is there a certain strategy that Ireland needs to develop that differentiates from the one in Bulgaria? Or is there that sort of that conterminous link between both that should be implemented right now in both countries?
First of all, I don't want to offend anybody. I have people from the Middle East, but for example, a lot of wars are finished, as we know, in Syria.
Yeah.
Bashar Assad is removed, so happy days, as the Western media proclaim it. So one of the steps they should make is, if the countries are peaceful, it's democracy, there is no reason for somebody who hasn't married or whatever to stay here. If it's not citizen, then we'll make space for the others, for the citizens of Europe.
Yeah.
And both countries, in the context of the European Union, I think they should both approach for peace, because politics is linked to these programs and things. Because if the peace is made in Ukraine and stop somehow the war, maybe this more than 4 million people can go back home, because we know that the government of EU actually suggest, and they've kind of implemented, because most of the politicians in Europe and different countries agree with, they give jobs and homes for Ukrainians, for example, for all these people. And if it's make a step forward to make peace, so there will be more available houses for the citizens of Europe. But going more detailed of the problems of homelessness, there is a lot of structural problems which has to be solved, as well the communication and the distribution of responsibilities when it comes to homelessness for these institutions. Because if you have kind of vague responsibility between 3 institutions, everybody blame the other institution for its failure. So it's very important to delegate these responsibilities very clearly and straightforwardly. And the other problem, which is spending more money. Bulgaria doesn't spend any. Spending money on affordable housing or emergency accommodations.
Yeah.
They do a fantastic job in Ireland. I have to say that the charity in Ireland are fantastic. People has fantastic hearts, and they share the bitterness of the homeless people and the people in troubles in general. And I just want to say a few numbers here. 2016, the Arwant in charity, which some of this money go for homelessness, from the private individuals were collected 226 million euros in only 2016. In 2015, 452 millions were collected from individuals, and some of this money go for homelessness. So when you see they are all linked, media approach to the problem, the mentality of the people, how they approach this problem, how they think of it, the mentality, and do they think of the problem at all?
Yeah.
For example, in the United States, the Republicans will teach you if you're poor and homeless, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Which is a wrong approach. I came to a research, and that's why Europe doing better, generally speaking, nowadays not so well in social justice, because of course in the context of the homelessness, but maybe we will discuss this about the politics later, how it links to homelessness. So there is a few ways that these two countries has to work. Of course, Bulgaria is far behind Ireland.
Yeah.
We talk about it.
Yeah.
There is no statistics.
There, yeah.
There is no problem with homeless there. There is 500 tourists who travel, homeless tourists who travel, which is cynical and ugly to say that. And the other, it's more coverage of the media, because it's a vicious circle. The society has to put a pressure on the media, and media has to cover it more, but they have to be put on pressure. Or as well, media doing more cover, the people will start to know more about the problem, how terrible it is, and if it's rising, it is bigger. So there is many ways to help, and I hope I touch on most of them.
You even answered my following question: was how beneficial are charities and NGOs in helping fight the battle against homelessness? Now, as you stated, you had the 226 million in 2016 that was donated by the Irish people, by just private citizens. So,
but also the state has to spend money, and Irish state spent almost close to 430 million, if I'm not mistaken, close to $500 million last year in 2024. If we have to be exact, 418 million the government spent 2024 for homelessness, fighting homelessness, building houses and services and so on. Of course, it's not enough. If the homelessness is rising, so it means something that is wrong. But we touch few things: the refugees, the war in the East Europe, and so on and so on. More spending and more different approach to cheaper energy, because that's linked as well to the problem. Because if you have rising prices for food, for energy, for transport, for everything else, education, and you saw that government introduced extra for the education.
Euro.
That leads to poverty.
Yeah.
And poverty leads to homelessness. And homelessness leads to death a lot of times. Unfortunately, the death rate it's very high among homeless people.
I mean, there it is, poverty again. You can make a certain wage, you start off before the ages of 25 to 30, after you're into your career, roughly around then, you can barely graduate.
Basically, every local politician in every different country, when I say local, the politician in Ireland, in Portugal, in Spain, they should stop repeating the EU government as a, how you call this bird, pirate?
The parrot.
Parrot.
To
stop
like
repeat the parrot.
To
repeat it, and just start to look their own problems, the local problems of Ireland or Portugal or Spain, and if does not suit the country, the people, to say no, sorry, we are Europeans, but we cannot follow what you're saying because it's not compliant, it's not good, it's all negative for my country and my people. And if we don't have this politician to say that, we should change the politicians.
That's exactly it. Now, we kind of touched upon, obviously, charities. That has been answered, but does the political conjuncture in a country affect the disposition upon the homelessness by the citizens of a country? So basically, does the, let's say, favoured party in a certain country, the favoured, I don't know whether you're left, right, or in the middle, sort of in between, does that have an effect on how homeless people are viewed, how they are treated? And I think you kind of touched upon that earlier on, stating how, you know, you had the Republicans more so in America, with the, say in the US in general, with the capitalist sort of mindset, and then here where you'd have the more social focused, liberal sort of mindset.
Well, it's not necessary to be liberal, but it has to be left. And two researchers I came across for my PhD, which a great book they wrote, and they make amazing analysis showing that Republican, the Democrats in the United States, they're both right parties. No matter the Democrats wanted to display
the US
themselves
in
as
general,
more,
absolutely.
they're more capitalism, money, social justice. They're almost is not present in them political agenda and strategy and policy. The examples are many. We won't have time to give them. And they were saying this. They're from English-speaking country. I think one after is English, the other is American. They're saying that Europe has more social justice because the left party are very strong in Europe. I'm not saying let's vote for the capital for the communist and the socialist, but this is it's a fact that because Europe was more orientated in this. For example, I'll give you a good example. For example, for American person, I don't remember the number, but say figuratively 5,000. It's enough. It's not above the poverty line, the salary. In Europe, that won't be accepted.
Yeah.
There'll be 8,000, for example. And because the European has a different sets of mind, which is not wrong with it, to have this kind of sets of minds for lodging and looking for social justice.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to have a social justice. And because any of us tomorrow can be homeless, as I said it a few times.
Yeah.
And yes, the politics has an impact on that if we have homelessness or better, and generally speaking, social justice in a certain country or the union.
Yeah. I was even watching, you know, between the correlation of the different mindset from obviously one end of the world to the other. I was watching an interview. One of the owners, I forgot which Italian brand, just in his factory, he was getting interviewed, and it was an American journalist interviewing him. He was saying, "Wow, you give your employees 4 weeks off paid leave. You know, they can go on holidays. You're paying them slightly above the minimum wage. They're spending less time in your factory, but they're more efficient than the ones in America." And he goes with his Italian accent, "Yes, because I want them to be happy. I want my employees to be happy." And then the journalist goes, "But if you cut the paid leave and if you lower the minimum wage and you can hire even more the price of your products, you could be making even more money." And the Italian, I can't believe I forgot the firm. He goes, "No, but that's not the point. That's not the point. We're selling our products to the price to where we're profitable. Yes, we're, you know, they have a standard, they have the premium price or whatever. But I don't want to squeeze my employees out. This is about them working happy, because when they know that I value them, they're going to work just as hard for me." And I just wanted to touch upon it, even though it's not related to homelessness. It's the way of thinking. You had an American right there, two people, same table. One was questioning why they weren't squeezed to the maximum. On paper, they'd be the most efficient. They wouldn't be.
But again, the statistic back to homelessness about what you're saying, 30% at least once use social services and programs, including coupons for food in America, even though they work hard.
Yeah.
They're paying so much taxes. It's still something terribly wrong there with the social system.
Yeah.
Because in America, they work 3 jobs. Somebody said, "Oh, but that's the fashion." No, it's not the fashion. It's not the fashion. You have to work in America 3 jobs to pay your mortgage, your lovely big car, and so on, in health insurance, and so on. And once you lose your job or your health, you're homeless.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
You're homeless. There is no. And do we want this example in Europe? The American example. I wrote an article about it, and you know, as a doctor, as a student of PhD, I have to publish, and I'm glad, and I enjoy my research, even though sometimes it's hard to find time. Wrote that the example of the social system in United States is not it's not a good example.
No.
It's not a good example, and if you want to have a social state that look after the people who are misfunctioned to lose their jobs or good health,
I mean,
let's not look the other side of the ocean.
The US is the quintessential example of cold-blooded capitalism, and there's no way around it. As long as a country is known as capitalist, to a very big extent, to a very large extent, there's no way that you're thinking about social policies, and it's just as simple as that. You can't be capitalist and also socially oriented, because in Ireland and Dublin you can say yes, but you have this capitalistic sort of mindset, but it's not to that extent. It's not there yet, and hopefully it's never is, because you can see we've covered the stats. You have the NGOs, you have the people supporting it, you have the government investing in it, you have Focus on it, you have the statistics, and that just shows that because that mindset isn't followed, that's where that socialist, and it's not socialist in the say of economic, economic wise. We're talking about the people. We're talking about homelessness. It
and,
just shows.
Even the great writer Stephen King saying that they were homeless when the father left them, and the mom has to work 2 jobs because she couldn't support the 2 boys. Stephen King and his brother. And in his own book, he said his brother was climbing on the roof, but he was so young to realize that's very dangerous. And Stephen King, while watching him, he was even younger, and saying, "Oh, great fun! He's going to fall." And can you imagine? This is maybe from now he look at it kind of funny, but in what danger they are put, and because there is no social justice, there is no social system that supports you in these difficult moments. And his brother almost died, and I'm not sure it's not only his brother.
Yeah.
Because the mom has to go to work, and nobody could look after them. Very seldom they found, he said it in his book, somebody to look after them, because then the mother wasn't really able financially to pay somebody some decent salary.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
And there you go. If that's what you're looking for, the people in Europe, well, take it, but don't be then regretting it, because really it can be a life can be extremely bitter without social justice.
Exactly, because that's the compassion that you feel as a society. That's what unites people. It's helping out other people. I think that's what it should be built upon. Now, obviously, as a Christian, that's what you should be taught, compassion. But in general, even if you're not religious at all, that compassion, that's what unites people. Because once you help out a person and you don't expect anything in return, the person that was helped out will always remember that for the rest of their life. And I think that builds a society. That builds a society, starting from homelessness all the way to any other aspect.
That's why I start the episode that the size of the number of homeless, it's our failure. If the number rise, it's our bigger failure. Homelessness measure how we do as a human beings, as a society, and if the rise of homelessness is there, our failure is bigger.
And to conclude the episode, what is your own conclusion that you have developed after interviewing over 30 homeless individuals in both Bulgaria and Ireland?
It was a sad experience, but in the same time I learned a lot. I decided to give them because they cooperate, and I wanted to help a little bit, small amount of money. I interviewed more than 30 Irish Bulgarians, and some they weren't Bulgarians, or Irish, Slovakian, Hungarian, some Romas. One thing touched me, and one thing I vividly remember, and kind of outstand of all the information they gave me. They thanked me that I had time to listen to them. And here is showing they thank me for the money, but the most important for them it was that somebody sit down and listen to their problems. Somebody show, even for 15, 20 minutes, compassion. Not just passing by. That is some rubbish on the road, or in the centers in Bulgaria for homeless people. That somebody, even for half an hour, thought of them and sit down and ask them for their problems. And even the chance to talk. That's what they appreciate the most. And here we're coming again for the human touch. If you lose that, we are animals. I don't want to even say animals because they have compassion as well. We are some evil persona that live only for himself or herself. And that was striking. And I learned that, again, for example, in Bulgaria, the problem is that the law is not in place. Few people were victims of property scam. They took them properties in a very undecent scam way, and they lost their homes again because the law is not there. The data for the people, the access to people's data is very easy in Bulgaria, and that gives great opportunities for the scammers. And few people I came across that because the law wasn't in place, because the Bulgarian state doesn't spend money for protecting of the data of the people, the result was homelessness. The other thing I noticed is that they're all similar, really, and a lot of them who sleep roof in Dublin, they were victims of violence, terrible violence, And when you look at through their eyes, you see that these people are people like us, and we should not forget that this is people, this is human beings, and that most of them, they wish to have a normal lives. And when I said normal lives, to have just apartment, one set, just to have one apartment with my kid and live normal. That's what's the most strike me with them. And the other things, the complaint they had that the governments in Bulgaria and Ireland don't do enough for them. And really, how I said, it's a failure as a society. Because if they're in the street, it's not only their fault, it's our fault too. And we have to find out where all on the way we make mistakes, or where have we been enough involved?
Yeah.
Did we talk and thought enough at all for these people?
Yeah.
And why it comes to this sad situation?
Of course. Well, thank you to everyone that has watched this episode. Hopefully, obviously, typically we'd say that you've enjoyed it, but maybe even been touched, maybe think about something that we've said, or ponder about a statistic, and maybe even think about how you yourself can become involved into helping out the homelessness. And this goes to not just Bulgaria, Ireland, from wherever you're watching it, because sometimes we look at the videos and they're viewed from US, they're viewed from other European countries, obviously predominantly in Ireland, but still I think that the most valuable outcome from this episode would be if you just sat there, even throughout one point in the episode, and you thought about it and said, yeah, maybe this is correct, maybe this isn't correct, maybe I could do this, or I can help someone out. So I think, yes, it was enjoyment, but I'd like to end it on more of a what's the word? Maybe more of a deeper, positive, maybe just a tone where it's more reflective, we'll say, as I think it would be suitable for this episode, because it's not your typical cheery sort of thing. So to anybody that's watched this video, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and we'll catch you in the next one.